I mean, yeah, they make us cry. But onion tears are well worth it, considering how much these vegetables contribute to worldly cuisine. That being said, do you know the difference between a red onion and a white onion? How about a Vidalia and a Cipollini? Don't worry, I got you covered, and we're bringing on the tears, because I am breaking down the Allium family. There are so many varieties of alliums around the world that there's not one cuisine that's untouched by their pungency. But not all alliums are created equal. It's worth getting to know every member of this family because guess what? It's gonna make you a better cook. Let's start with the workhorses, red, white, and yellow onions. Yellow specifically, bam. These account for more than 80% of the onion growth in America. Why is that? They are the perfect balance between sweetness and spiciness. You can do so many things with these. They're great for sauteing. They are perfect for caramelizing. Moving on to white. White onions are very similar to yellow in their flavor, except they're a little bit more pungent, a little bit less sweet. Interesting thing to know, they're also thinner skinned, and this means that they don't keep as well. So if you're gonna get white onions, you wanna keep them in the fridge or use them quickly. Best uses for white onions, mince them, throw them fresh on something as a garnish at the very end. Moving on to red onions, this is the member with the most character in the allium family. Obviously that distinguished purple. And the thing you should remember, this purple is going to disappear when you start cooking them. These are even more pungent than the white and a little less sweet, but they also have a more savory character to them, which makes them perfect for pickling and also slicing on top of things at the very end as a garnish, partly for their color and partly for their crunch. Now, if the pungency is too much for you to take, here's a pro tip. Just soak them in a bowl of ice water or vinegar or any acid. Lemon juice or lime juice is perfect too. For 5 minutes, it cuts out all of the sulfuric compounds that make onions spicy, but it keeps all of their onion flavor. Okay, let's move on to the sweet end of things. First up, we've got Spanish onions. Now, Spanish onions are just another variety of yellow onions. They're a little squatter, they're a little sweeter, but they share all the same characteristics. You can caramelize them perfectly, they're great for sauteing, they're a pretty versatile onion. Next up, we've got the Vidalia onion. Now the Vidalia onion is the only thing on this table that has a registered name. To be called a Vidalia onion, you've got to be a specific breed of sweet onions that are grown in and or around Vidalia, Georgia. Kind of funny, huh? They are incredibly sweet, they don't have a ton of pungency, they are great for grilling. Speaking of sweet and not pungent and great for grilling, these are Cipollini onions. Cipollini onions are so sweet, but they're kind of a pain in the ass to work with, actually. They are so small and you've got to peel them. You want to take off the top and the bottom, peel them all the way around, and at that point, they're not worth mincing or chopping at all. You're much better off pan roasting these, letting them get nice and bubbly and caramelized in the pan, and then serve them as a pan roasted side dish to your next meat dinner. Getting even smaller, we have pearl onions. Now, pearl onions come in white, yellow, and red, just like their bigger brothers, but they have way less character. In fact, pearl onions have very little flavor at all. They're great in a stew, they're great in a pot pie, but they're really there for texture. They're not going to bring a lot to the table. All right, we've tackled most of these. Let's get on to the greener side of things. Boom. First up, the weakest in the family, we've got chives. They're great as a garnish. They're not that great once they're cooked. So you want to use these raw. Stir them into dips, serve them on top of soups, on top of roast chicken at the very end, and of course, deviled eggs. Next up, scallions. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can only eat the white or the green. They're wrong. You can eat all of it. The green is a little bit tougher than the white, but the white has a little bit more flavor. Now the reason we use both is for texture and flavor. The white's great inside a dish, and the green is great on top of a dish. The green is the perfect garnish. Getting a little bit bigger from there, we've now got spring onions. Now spring onions are exactly what they sound like. They're onions that have been harvested in the spring, which is to say, it's these suckers pulled out of the ground a little bit early. So you can get white spring onions and red spring onions, you can get yellow spring onions. They've got a little bit more flavor than scallions and a little bit less than their bigger brothers. The greens on these do get a little bit tough, so you might want to chop off some of those. Speaking of tough greens, let's move all the way down the line to the jolly green giant in the family, leeks. Leeks are terrific. They have a little bit of sweetness, a lot of onion character, and not a lot of pungency. So they're terrific in soups, they're terrific in sautés, and they are terrific braised. Now you gotta remember, this part is all edible. Here the white is very tender, but it starts to get very woody when you go up to the greens. Don't throw these away though. Chop them off and use them to make stock. The other thing you want to remember about leeks, they get very dirty, so you've got to remember to wash them well. Split them in half lengthwise and fan them out under cold running water to get all of the dirt out of those layers. The last two things we want to talk about are shallots and garlic. First up, shallots. If you don't have shallots on hand, you're doing something wrong. Shallots fall somewhere in between a yellow onion and a red onion in terms of its pungency and sweetness, but you get the added benefit of having some garlic flavor kicked in there. You can also soak them in vinegar if they're too pungent, but they're perfect caramelized, they're perfect pickled, they're perfect fried. Why aren't you using more shallots? And finally, of course, that brings us to our dear friend, garlic. It's spicy and pungent when you eat it raw, it's golden and crisp when you fry it, kind of sweet, and then it's chewy and caramelized when you roast it. Garlic is absolutely one of the most versatile alliums in the entire family, and remember, don't ever refrigerate it. It's going to get a little bit of a bitter taste when you refrigerate it. Garlic stays perfectly well on your counter, in a bowl, just keep it out of the fridge. It's good, it doesn't need to chill out. I hope all this has increased your counter intelligence. Go out, buy some more onions, and start cooking. I hope you learned a lot today, and if you did, please make sure to share this video with your friends and don't forget to subscribe. And as always, leave your comments and questions below. I'll make sure to answer them in an upcoming episode of Counterintelligence.